Is there one food, if you had to pick, that often triggers inflammation for people?
I'm just going to go straight. I mentioned 130 health conditions associated with inflammation, 55 of them associated with the Western diet. So clearly, this is part of the problem. The wellness hacks that have been proposed as the solution to inflammation, to me, don't really make sense. The number one most powerful morning routine hack that I can provide is to get light exposure in the morning.
I'm going to do this too, to go outside and get 20 minutes of sunlight. What is your most unpopular health opinion right now?
People sort of have demonized gluten a little too much. The vast majority of people probably don't need to be gluten-free and still could achieve anti-inflammatory diet.
Is there something that you cut from the book because you thought it might be too controversial?
Hey, Ariel. Great to see you. This is incredible.
So good to see you too.
Yeah.
You're a three-peat now, officially.
Yeah. Well, first time was I'm guessing it was probably 21, maybe 2020.
Okay.
So it's kind of cool to here we are, and it's been 4 or 5 years, and
so much has happened in that time for both of us, but especially for you. And we'll be talking about that today. But I like to start with a rapid fire with my guests just to get into the flow. So we're going to be talking about gut health today, obviously, and inflammation. What is one food that instantly calms inflammation for you?
I'm going with ginger.
Okay. Tell us more. What is the mechanism of that?
Oh gosh, ginger is so cool. Like I think turmeric gets all the hype and we kind of forget about ginger and the wonderful things that it does. So they come from the same family. These are roots, and ginger has these polyphenols called gingerols, which we of course taste when we consume any ginger-based food or ginger ale or something like this. And we know that ginger is good for nausea, but it also helps with our gut motility just in general. And so for people who suffer with gut issues, this is a wonderful thing because you're basically like making it easier on your stomach, helping to move things through, and that can actually help with gas and bloating. So to me, there's many different benefits to ginger from a gut perspective.
And conversely, is there one food, if you had to pick, that often triggers inflammation for people?
I'm just going to go straight sugar because I think that that's actually the big problem that we really need to have a conversation about. Because like the little foods that you only get so much of, it's not that big of a deal. But the average person in the US is consuming 150 pounds of sugar per year. So that
is crazy. Do you know what that breaks down to a day?
Let's see, doing the math. I mean, you're like doing about a half a pound, like a half a pound of sugar
so
per
crazy.
day. That's pretty wild.
That is wild.
Yeah.
What is the gut myth that you are tired of debunking?
Oh, man. I think the lectins thing just annoys me so much.
Is that still a thing, really?
No, but I'm still bitter about it.
Yeah.
Let it go.
I mean, we won't name names, but there are people who have large followings as a result of promoting that.
That's like a Voldemort thing.
Yeah.
Who shall not be named. Look, it is what it is. I think that the issue for me is it's a matter of what does the evidence show? And I feel like the evidence in favor of the foods that tend to be, that actually are high lectin foods, the evidence is completely overwhelming. So I just it's hard for me to like rectify how people are coming to a conclusion that these foods that overwhelming evidence and scientists across the globe are in agreement that these are healthful foods could somehow be the bad thing.
I think it's kind of the more outrageous or the sexier it is, the more airtime it gets. We're in that era for sure.
I was talking to my friend Simon Hill about this today because the issue is that if you make a totally controversial post, then your comment section will blow up with people yelling at each other. And that's not the vibe that I want to have, right? Like that's not the environment. To me, the internet has become like such a hostile place and actually is adding to our stress and actually worsening our health. And there is value that exists. There are places that you can go to get really like high quality information that helps you. And I want to be one of those places. But, I do struggle with the fact that we know that there are these sort of moves that you can make that will increase the attention you get.
Mm-hmm. I have to say I did one the other day where I did a post about my closet that I got divorced. I didn't have kids, so I turned a kid's room into the closet. A 6-second video on Instagram. It's over 1 million views now because of that exact thing. Everybody fighting in the comments. Craziness. But these algorithms really do seem more and more to favor any kind of, divisive content, which is unfortunate.
It's kind of interesting though that you brought that up, because I feel like that's also a topic that is like kind of hot. It's a hotbed topic right now. So I know that Andre Duquim from Know Thyself had a guest where this was the topic of conversation, was like, not yet having children and as a woman. And and I think it's a complex topic.
Nothing gets people outraged more than saying that you don't have children, which is so interesting.
That's really annoying, because to me,
I'm like, I could do a whole episode on that.
Look, you have the right to choose how you live your life and what brings you joy.
Yeah.
And there are many different paths to joy, right? And the way that I live is not what I expect everyone else to do. I have 4 kids. I think it's great. I also know that it's not for everyone. And I kind of feel like, why don't you just focus on yourself? Like, I think this applies to many different facets of our world where people want to sit there and judge. I think they think that they have the right to do that, to sit on the sideline and judge other people. And that's a horrible energy, and it adds nothing for you personally to be that way, right?
Yeah. I would imagine, to tie it all in, that they probably have poor gut health because of the negativity and the stress and the nervous system dysregulation that comes as a result of being so reactive. And I say this in a half joking way, but in your new book, you do talk about the emotional piece and the spiritual piece to your health ultimately. And especially, how stress has a downstream effect, and all of these things can negatively impact our gut and the interconnectedness of everything.
Are we post quickfire? Am I allowed to unpack this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't want to disrupt the quickfire, but I think it's the brain gut connection. So, and it's interesting because if we kind of start with this position of the internet troll who spends their time sort of creating strife. Yeah, it's a negative energy. You are activating for that person. Like, I actually feel bad for them in a way, because they're activating their sympathetic nervous system. And so there's this balance. These are the 2 parts, the 2, sort of yin and yang of our autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Sympathetic is adrenaline. That's what happens when, you need to do something heroic or someone cuts you off when you're driving. And then parasympathetic is rest and digest and recover. And that's the place that we need more of. And so the problem is that we live in a world that already has us on sympathetic overdrive. And if you are making choices with the way that you live your life, where it's like actually like choosing to immerse yourself in that, here's the physiology. This is what happens on the inside. Basically, you activate your sympathetic nervous system, which leads to the release of a hormone from your brain called corticotropin releasing hormone, or CRH, which sets off a cascade throughout your entire body. And that raises your blood pressure, raises your heart rate. In certain scenarios, that's a beneficial, good thing. But there's also a compromise that comes from this, which is that you sacrifice your gut health, you sacrifice your gut barrier, and you increase inflammation. So, and what we want is the counterpoint of this, which is parasympathetic, rest, digest, recover. When we're in that place, we feel safe. We feel comfortable. We don't feel threatened. And there's ways that we do that through being social, healthy social connection. So, which can come from talking to another person, but it can also come from acts of service. So when you help other people as opposed to trying to tear them down, that good act, it allows you to feel good about yourself. You actually benefit more than the person that you are serving. And you activate your parasympathetic nervous system, and then that actually rewards you with better gut health.
Let's define gut health, because I feel like now more than ever, it's always been a buzzy word. Everything is about gut health. Everything is about inflammation. I saw an article yesterday. I can't remember. Maybe it was the New Yorker or something online. It said, why is everybody that you know and their best friend, quote unquote, inflamed? Because you see it everywhere. So just at its core, what is gut health? What is inflammation? How do you define that?
Well, we always have to be careful with these buzzy type words, and both of them are in that space. So to me, gut health, we tend to like sort of think of this as the microbiome, but to me, it's much more than that. So gut health is the entirety that includes your gut microbiome, but also your entire digestive system, the enzymes that are involved, the way in which you break down your food, get access to that food, the rhythm of your intestines, the motility, the way that things move through, and then the impact that this system that we're talking about, your intestines, the way they move, your gut microbiome, the impact that this system has throughout your entire body on digestion, but also on your metabolism, on your hormones, on your mood, on your brain health, on your immunity. And within the space of immunity, inflammation. So yeah, like it gets tossed around very casually. Yet at the same time, there actually is a quite compelling argument that everyone really is actually inflamed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is the consequence of living in a world where our environment and our culture has disconnected us from what is natural and who we really are. So, and what that results in, and we can kind of dig into the details, but what that results in is activation of the immune system. So to me, inflammation is quite simply the activation of your immune system. And if that's because you're fighting a cold or because you cut yourself and you need to repair the wound, well, that's acute inflammation. That's a really good thing. You're going to fix the problem. That's why we have an immune system. But the world that we live in today, the immune system has been flipped on, and it's kind of like in a forever war. The immune cells are going to war on a consistent daily basis. They don't need to. But the consequence of this is what we call chronic low-grade inflammation. And chronic low-grade inflammation, the World Health Organization calls this the challenge of our times from a health perspective. And the data suggests that 3 out of 5 deaths are related to this.
Oftentimes it's a faucet, right? And the faucet starts to drip and somebody might have low-grade inflammation, and then it turns into some kind of chronic health issue, autoimmune, and then it turns into something even worse. So what is that trajectory like?
So to me, most of the time, you would experience symptoms first. And these are symptoms that you could go to 5 different doctors with 5 different symptoms and not realize that they're actually coming from the same place. So going from the top of your head to the tip of your toes, it could be headaches, it could be changes in your mood, or difficulty with sleep, difficulty concentrating, brain fog, could be skin issues, rashes, breakouts, hormonal issues. That can be fertility, that could be perimenopause, that could be menopause. In men, that can be erectile dysfunction. Or low testosterone. In your gut, bloating is the classic symptom of inflammation. And then if I had to, if you ask me, okay, Dr. B, what is the one though? Like, what is the number one symptom of inflammation? To me, it's fatigue. So, and that's not to make the claim that all fatigue is caused by inflammation, but I think a lot of it is. And when you are inflamed, you will feel tired. So you could also have muscle aches, body aches, joint aches, or joint pains. So these are some of the classic symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
But as I was researching this book, so the last time that you and I recorded, I believe it was 2022, and that was my cookbook. And here we are, and it's taken me 3 years to write this book. And I asked the question, what are the health conditions that if I come on the Well podcast, I can pull out research articles to show the listeners that there's science to back up every single health condition that I'm telling you about. I found over 130 health conditions that are associated with inflammation. So you mentioned autoimmune, absolutely. All of them, every single one of them. Same with allergic issues, right? But we also have to expand our vision, our view to what includes inflammation. And that is these different systems that include hormonal issues. So endometriosis, endometrial hyperplasia, polycystic ovary syndrome, fertility issues, menopausal symptoms, but also mood disorders, cognitive disorders, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, cardiovascular disease, obesity, all of these, we're really, it becomes a list of everything that we see as being a problem from a health perspective. So it's just kind of interesting to think that we have these lists, hey, what's the scary stuff? Hey, what's the problematic stuff? But yet somehow we never come to this tie back to saying it's all one story. It's the same story. It's inflammation.
And your hypothesis essentially is that it all starts in the gut, right? Because you say in your book that your gut is where the outside world most powerfully interacts with your inside world. And you said, yes, there's the skin, there are the lungs, but they have more powerful filtering systems. And I can't remember exactly how close you said it was, but when you ingest something, how close is it to your bloodstream?
Micrometers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so, and that's a very nerdy way of saying really, really darn close.
Yeah. We like the nerdy stuff.
Yeah. Okay, good. That fits for me. So yeah, it's, to be clear, it's not the claim that the gut is the source of all of our problems. But as I was researching these 130 different health conditions, more than 130 health conditions, I turned to my second question, which was what's going on with the gut microbes? And the answer, once again, validated by research studies, is that they're unwell. I can't find a situation where these inflammatory health conditions exist and at the same time the gut microbes are healthy. They're going hand in hand. So the argument that I'm making is that, and this is we could literally do an entire show about just proving this one point, and you'll find it in the book, but basically they rise and they fall together. So the opportunity that we have is that our gut is so forgiving. Our gut is so transformative. Like it can be transformed, like the transformation could begin tomorrow. And our gut barrier, which goes hand in hand with our gut microbes. When we talk about like leaky gut, we're talking about the gut barrier. Every 3 to 5 days, you have a brand new gut barrier that your body is installing. There's no other part of your body that turns over as quickly. So we have an opportunity. The choices that we make over the next 3 to 5 days could lead to a healthier, refreshed gut barrier. And when we do something like that, you will feel the difference. And I think that's the entire point is like, if you do these things, the theory is one thing, but if you do these things and then you literally feel the difference,
If you have been feeling like your body is working overtime just to keep up with modern life, as we are discussing in this episode, you are not imagining it. We are living in an environment that our biology was never designed for, from EMFs to artificial light to microplastics, endocrine disruptors, chronic stress. It is all hitting our system every single day. And all of those things can disrupt the signals that your body relies on, affecting things like immunity, gut health, metabolism, skin, energy, everything, which is why I love Armra Colostrum. It works at the cellular level to fortify your health from the inside out. And what I love most is that it's not just another Band-Aid. It's actually nature's first whole food, packed with over 400 bioactive nutrients that strengthen the immune barriers, nourish the gut, and support whole body vitality. So there's also a beauty aspect, which I know you guys love and appreciate. Armra helps promote cellular renewal for healthier skin, hair, and collagen integrity from the inside out. It's honestly one of those products where you feel the difference in your glow, your digestion, your energy, everything, even your recovery if you are active. So it's no wonder elite athletes swear by colostrum. So if you're ready to upgrade your health starting at the foundation, Armra is such an easy daily ritual with truly noticeable results. And I worked out a special deal for you guys. You can receive 30% off your first subscription order when you go to armra.com/well or enter the code WELL at checkout. That's ARMRA.com/well. If you're looking for the perfect gift for that beauty enthusiast in your life, or you just want to treat yourself, I highly recommend the Bon Charge Red Light Face Mask. If you've been wanting an easy science-backed way to support your skin, your collagen, and honestly, your overall well-being this season, this is it. So red light therapy has been reviewed in over 4,000 peer-reviewed studies, with over 400 of those being double-blind placebo trials, and not a single study has shown negative side effects, only the truly incredible benefits, which is why I got into it in the first place. So I was looking for a red light mask that actually worked and that didn't disrupt my circadian rhythm, which is so important as we are talking about in this episode. That is why I love Bon Charge, because they actually removed the blue and green light frequencies, which can disrupt your sleep and biological clock. So this is huge for me because I like doing my face mask at night sometimes. Also, their mask uses both near infrared and red light, which helps boost collagen and elastin production, improve firmness, and support skin rejuvenation at a cellular level. It's also so lightweight. It doesn't get hot. It doesn't feel heavy. You can literally use it while you're watching TV, working, reading, winding down at night. I usually do just 10 minutes, and it's become one of my favorite little self-care rituals that I habit stack with my meditation. And right now it's the Bond Charge holiday sale. You can save 25% off your order, which is huge. Go to bondcharge.com and your 25% discount will be automatically applied at checkout. This ends December 31st, so don't miss this chance to save big on your favorite Bond Charge products. When it comes to seeking healthcare, especially when it comes to getting help for weight loss, a lot of people delay, not because they don't want support, but because the system feels impossible to navigate, from the fine print to endless calls, confusion about what's covered. It can be overwhelming, which is why Ro simplifies everything. So they make it simple to get started, beginning with their free insurance checker. It's designed to help you understand quickly and clearly whether your insurance may cover GLP-1 medications. So there's no guesswork, no hassle, just clarity so you can take the next step with confidence. Insurance can feel like a completely different language, as I'm sure you know, from codes to copays, denied claims, and you end up feeling stuck before you even begin. And life is already complicated enough. Your health goals should not be the thing that takes a back seat. So Ro's insurance checker is built to unstick that moment by making the first step simple, fast, and free. So if you want to see whether you're covered, you just submit your insurance card. That's it. Ro handles the rest. No paperwork, no phone calls, no waiting on hold. You'll get a comprehensive report showing exactly what's covered, so you can make the best choice for your goals. And if you decide to move forward, Ro can help you understand whether GLP-1s are right for you and your goals. So go to ro.co/blonde for your free insurance check. That's ro.co/blonde to see if your insurance covers GLP-1s for free. Go to ro.co/safety for boxed warning and full safety information about GLP-1 medications. I want to say your book is very optimistic. It's not like gloom and doom scary. This is everything that's wrong and everything terrible that our bodies are having to interact with every day. It's very hopeful. And I felt like the ultimate message is that you can change, you can feel so much better, and it can happen so quickly. And you talk about, sustainability kind of being at the top of that list, right? It's not difficult, this stuff. It's not crazy science. It's not necessarily a million supplements. And we can get into the kind of fundamental stuff. But I just really appreciate that about your work. It's so manageable and it's so easy to apply and to integrate into your own life, no matter what your diet is, no matter what your lifestyle is like. It's really inclusive. Let's start with the negative, though. You said that our immune systems and our guts are essentially at war every day, right? What are the most common things that we come into contact with, whether it's things that we're ingesting, whether it's environmental toxins, whether it is that work stress or negativity that impede on our overall health?
At a 30,000 foot view, I would first sort of put it on the table and say, think about what life was like for your grandparents or your great grandparents. So like my grandparents were born roughly around 1918. I mean, there was so much that was different back then. The television hadn't even been invented. People didn't really have access to cars. You had to walk to school, right? It was much more simple. You knew your farmer, you knew your butcher, you knew like all these different things, right? And now I remember, I feel like you and I are pretty similar in age. And,
I'm 40.
Okay, so I'm just like a little bit older.
Okay.
And I remember when the original Nintendo came out, because prior to that time point, I was playing outside, building forts constantly. And then the minute the original Nintendo, and this is so basic compared to what exists on our tablets and phones now, but from that point forward, all I could think about was how do I get some time on that?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and this is what our kids are growing up with now.
Yeah.
Right. So 30,000 foot view, that's sort of the big picture, that our world has changed. And when our world changes, when our environment changes, it does impact our gut microbes. They are a carbon copy of the entirety of our existence in a way. Like you can kind of find your story that exists within your microbes, right? And they're telling that story, and it's not just your diet. There's a lot more there. So for the individual person, like the part that's applicable to the listener who's tuning in right now is not necessarily, hey, like you need more fiber. For some of them, it is. But for others, it's trauma. It's a relationship that needs to be healed. It could be that their circadian rhythm is totally out of balance, right? So there are options. Where do I begin? I said sugar. I want to add salt, and I want to add just really junk fat, right? And when you take those three things, each of them individually has their own impact on our gut microbes, and we could talk about the studies for each. But the point though is that actually is what you would describe as the Western diet. And the Western diet is the standard American diet, which is mostly ultra-processed food. And what we've seen is, I mentioned 130 health conditions associated with inflammation. Well, I also have studies for 55 of them, 55 health conditions associated with the Western diet. So clearly this is part of the problem, right? Is the standard way that we accept our food here in the States. But I also think it's bringing in these other facets of our day. We spend around 95% of our day indoors, right? So, and those are spaces that the lighting is not natural, the temperature is not natural, you're not getting exposed to microbes, you're not hearing the sounds of nature, which actually are quite reassuring to us as humans, because that's what we came up with. So that's part of the story. And then we actually have, this is a shocking thing, but we have an epidemic of loneliness. And it's kind of confusing because we're here. Why are we not connecting with one another? And it turns out that the way that we're spending our time is making us feel increasingly disconnected. And the former Surgeon General actually made this their focus, because prior to the pandemic, 50% of Americans said they were lonely. And when you go and you look at the data on that, actually, loneliness is on par with smoking cigarettes in terms of how dangerous it is to our health. So in general, we're not well.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mean to laugh, but I'm laughing because I think probably everybody listening is yeah, I think everybody feels it. And I was thinking about how you and I are similar in age, and we were kind of the last generation to grow up without screens and then having screens. And I know every generation is we were the best, but
No, we're definitely the best. It's over.
I know, we are. So we know the difference of the before and the after. So I think that the comparison is so stark, and I think we all know these things, but it's so much easier, and I say this a lot, to focus on the more tangible things. And I don't know if you see this with people, in your life as well, where somebody thinks that they have a quote unquote gut issue, right? Maybe they have bloating, maybe they have skin issues, insomnia, anxiety, whatever. And they go straight to the diet instead of looking at the rest of the stuff, not looking at the screen from the second they wake up till the second they go to bed, and the lack of connection and the lack of going outside and the lack of spiritual practice. And I think we talked about this last time or 2 times ago, but people tend to get in this habit of restricting themselves into a corner because they just keep going food. It's this food, it's that food, it's that, and overlook the rest of the aspects.
Yeah, you asked me a really important question, which is what is the thing about nutrition that kind of drives you most crazy? And I said lectins, but really the issue is restrictive diets. So because when we restrict our diet, we actually are restricting access to unique nutrients for our microbes, our microbiome. And it's become very clear that all restrictive diets, even the ones that in some cases I use and recommend, can potentially, if you stick with them too long, start to impact the microbiome in a negative way. So there is this complexity to it all. If we get too OCD about identifying, hey, where's that one food that's causing all of my problems? And we do need to have that broader vision because I've had patients who have done all the stuff They're not getting better until they fix that one thing that it takes you like 4 or 5 visits to get comfortable enough that they'll actually talk about it. Right. And that's the trauma.
Mm-hmm. I remember you saying that last time as well. Yeah. And that's something I think people don't want to face, understandably. It's so much easier to go, okay, it's that food. It's that food. I would imagine you have patients who come to you who are eating like 4 foods and that's it, you know? And
I have had those patients, yes.
And I understand, because when you feel like we were talking before about histamine intolerance, MCAS, low histamine diet. I mean, there was a period there where I was miserable and I was this person. So much easier for me to try to control and manage the things that I could easily control and manage, which was what I was ingesting, versus nervous system work, environmental things like that are less tangible.
Yeah, it's all a bit complex in a way, but I think at the same time, the solutions don't have to be complex. And I think that's the opportunity that we have, is there's these evidence-based, that's what really the book is about, is like, here are these evidence-based tools. Let me show them to you. Let me promise you that they are backed by science. In fact, I'll show you the studies if you want to see them. And we're going to put them all on the table. And then you get to kind of take a look at what's there and say, here's what I'm willing to do. Here's also the one that I think is most important to me.
Yeah. And you have 3 phases, right, in the book?
Yep.
So let's talk about solutions and just kind of a general view of those 3 phases.
Yeah. So this time around, so my first book, Fiber Fueled, I was actually taken aback. This is in 2020. I was taken aback by how many people did the program. It was not easy. It was all food.
Yeah.
So you had to cook for 4 weeks. It was the Fiber Fueled 4 weeks.
Yeah.
You had to be cooking 3 meals a day for 4 weeks in order to do my program. And this time around, I took a different approach, because I was thinking about the person who has a complex inflammatory health issue. For example, imagine that they have ulcerative colitis. Like, that's who I had in the back of my mind. All right. For that person, I wouldn't come out guns blazing with high fiber food on day 1. It's too much. So, but there are things that we can do, tools that we can access that can heal the gut without even lifting a fork. And we should opt for those things. And so phase 1 is about actually taking action and implementing, for example, a daily routine, right? Having a morning routine that optimizes our circadian rhythm, getting in our exercise, getting in our quiet time, or your spiritual practice, getting reconnected to other people, right? So sort of like addressing these other sides that are the non-nutrition stuff. And then during this phase, you basically supplement your diet. So you take your regular diet that you're currently eating, and we're not going to overhaul it yet. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to start to add in some low FODMAP smoothies, some easily digestible soups. Because if you take things that are already sort of broken down, like a smoothie is or like a soup is, it's a lot easier for us to handle that from a gut perspective. Yet we can get access to the things that we're looking for. We can get the fiber. We can get the polyphenols, which are the colors in our food. We can get healthy fats. We can get fermented foods. Like, we can get all those things taking this approach. So that's phase 1. And you're not allowed to leave. So phase 1, it could be a week, but you're not allowed to leave phase 1 until you feel the difference, which then leads you into phase 2. And now that I got you hooked,
smart,
it actually gets a little bit harder. So, because don't be intimidated though, people, please. In phase 2, you're going to cook recipes, and they're going to be delicious recipes, and they're going to deliver the nutrients that your body is looking for. Now, the book is called Plant Powered Plus, and I want to comment on that for a quick moment, because 98% of America is not vegan, and I'm okay with that. I'm not trying to make people vegan. This is not an activist type of play from my perspective. I'm a medical doctor. I want to help people get healthy. The diet that's the right choice for you is going to be the one that you're willing to do. But we have options. We have lots of options, and they're all delicious. So Mediterranean, pescatarian, flexitarian, vegetarian, vegan, but like I would call that really a whole food plant-based. Those are all on the table. So basically the way that the recipes in phase 2 are constructed is we're going to start with sort of that plant-based foundation. And then I'm encouraging you to make it your own. So if you want to add whatever protein to that, I give you the recipes in the book so you can add that protein. You want salmon or you want shrimp or you want tofu or whatever it may be, you add that. Right. So, in phase 2, we're keeping going the action that we took in phase 1. And now we're getting our gut on board with new nutrition. And phase 3 is where we really just get optimized. So, because by the time you get to phase 3, you are rocking. Like, you are going to be feeling so much better. And so now we're really more so about fine tuning. So it's not as much of a big step up. It's more so about like, okay, now that we're here, we've gone through phase 2, we're doing great. What are the things that we can tweak to get even better? And to go from a B+ or an A- all the way to an A+. That's where we want to get to. So, and I think that's where phase 3 is going to help you to get to. So phase 3 is not so much of a big step up. It's more so about bringing it all together and making it something that's so irresistible that phase 3 just kind of doesn't end. You just keep going. This is your life. It's anti-inflammatory.
And what kind of results could people expect to feel?
So I would expect, going back to this whole concept of energy being the number one symptom of inflammation. So, look, you have to start with what is it that you're hoping to get better? So I don't know that energy would be the answer for everyone, but clearly we have some energy issues in the United States. Otherwise, like Red Bull and Monster wouldn't be so popular.
Mm-hmm. Diet Coke.
So we have
fridge cigs.
Which one?
Diet Coke, fridge cigarettes.
Yeah, there we go. Exactly. So lots of stuff.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's like short-term energy, and you kind of pay the price for it.
I just do it when I'm in Europe in the summer.
Yeah.
On the beach. I feel like it doesn't count.
So the Mediterranean sun kind of balances it out?
Something, and we could talk about this a little bit, not to interrupt you, but you were talking earlier about, the food quality here and the typical Western diet. And I feel like there's a conversation around food abroad versus food here. Yep. And I feel like it's kind of a cliche to go abroad and come back and say, oh, I felt so much better there. My digestion was better. And there are other variables. You're walking, you're probably not stressed, all of that. I was traveling a few weeks ago. I was in France and then Israel. I was living off French fries and bread and Coke Zero. Not proud of this.
Yeah, that's okay. We're being honest.
And pastries and just everything that comes with, traveling and eating all of the things and enjoying the culture and all of that. And I was on the craziest schedule ever. It was like not a relaxing vacation at all. The stress was high, and yet no bloating, no histamine issues, no MCAS stuff. So I came back, and 2 days after I got back, I'm puffy again, retaining water, like bloating. And I compared it and I went, well, no, I wasn't laying on a beach getting vitamin D, chilling, I was like running around like so stressed to the max, eating all this stuff. But I had that very clear difference in how I felt.
Yeah.
Which was interesting.
There are these people who they think they're gluten intolerant in the United States, and then they go to Italy and they seem to be okay. And so what's the deal with that? Well, the bread in Europe has gluten too. So all bread made from wheat has gluten automatically. Sourdough has a little bit less, for what that's worth. But I think that the story there is about the way that we process our food here in the States. And there's multiple different aspects to this, like just bread alone. There's a whole bunch of things going on there that allow that bread to sit on your supermarket shelf for who knows how long. It's not 2 days, and stay soft and puffy and not moldy. And I don't know, have you ever made your own bread at home?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gets moldy in 3 days.
Yeah.
So you got to eat it pretty quick. It goes bad pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I think a big part of the story, to be honest, Ariel, is glyphosate.
Yeah.
So
you talk about that in your book as well.
In the United States, glyphosate is used to spray, and it's not just a wheat thing. It's also oats. It's also many other dried out foods. Glyphosate is being used to spray these foods to basically dry them out as quickly as possible. So, and just in the event that people haven't heard about this glyphosate is a chemical that you also find in Roundup. Roundup is a weed killer, right? We call it an herbicide. And so it's not exactly the same as Roundup. Roundup has other additives that are in there, but the active chemical is glyphosate. And if you were a farmer and you had a wheat field, here are your choices in the United States. You can harvest your crop and store it somewhere, and you have to wait like 10 to 14 days for it to dry out on its own before you can move it off your farm. Or you could harvest your crop, spray it with glyphosate, it's done. And the issue is, I think the answer is obvious. And then the problem is that there's no requirement for us as consumers to know on the label that the wheat was sprayed or not sprayed. The only exception to this is organic. So if you get something that's organic, by definition, it cannot be sprayed with glyphosate. But this is an issue in the United States because the glyphosate, while it will not kill you instantly, it will kill a lot of your microbes instantly. And it's become quite clear from a number of different studies that the impact on the microbiome with glyphosate is that it depletes the beneficial bacteria, and actually the ones that are the most glyphosate tolerant are the inflammatory bacteria. So we are shaping the balance in a direction that we don't like. And I honestly believe, it's a quite nuanced conversation when it comes to gluten and things like this. But I sincerely believe that, at least in terms of this like story of like, I can't eat bread in the US, but I go to Italy and I'm fine. I think this is it's a glyphosate issue.
Interesting. Well, I hijacked the conversation from you because you were talking about energy drinks and fatigue and what people might expect to feel after doing this 3-part plan and feeling transformed, essentially. So what other things could people expect? Less fatigue?
So let's take one small part of the plan. Okay. I'm a big advocate for locking in our circadian rhythm.
Yeah.
Like, we are so out of circadian balance with the way that we're currently doing things, where we're basically exposing ourselves to bright lights at night, spending all of our time indoors, not going outside in the morning, erratic meal times, erratic bedtimes. And if we were to restore that, if you were to like literally just do everything the same, but consistently, like if you just locked in the same meal times and locked in the same bedtimes, that actually would be a massive step in the right direction. And if you add in the number one most powerful morning routine hack that I can provide is to get light exposure in the morning. It is the most powerful thing that you can do in your morning. And this time of year, depending on where you live, that may mean a light box. So you look for one that has 10,000 lux. But when the weather will allow it, I strongly encourage going outside. And that light exposure, particularly from the sun, your body has been hardwired. We can get into the details if you want me to. Your body has been hardwired where basically there is an entire sequence of reactions that will be set off through that light exposure that will impact 50% of your genes and over 50% of the microbes in your gut.
I tried memorizing the part of your brain that you talk about in your book.
Yeah.
But I didn't write it down.
Well,
Starts with an S,
earlier,
right?
Yeah, SCN. So you mentioned that you like nerds. So here we go.
Yeah.
This is the suprachiasmatic nucleus. Yeah.
Say it again.
Suprachiasmatic nucleus. So we call it the SCN for short. And it's like kind of interesting. So being nerdy, it's like interesting how we evolved, because the location of this part of our brain is actually so perfectly situated because it's the first spot, literally the first spot, that if you were to step outside and look up to the sky, this is the first spot where it would be able to detect light from both of your eyes, both right and left. And then it sends off this signal that affects your serotonin levels. It affects cortisol as a morning circadian hormone, which helps to set the drumbeat for your day. And it turns on your body and it teaches your body, this is when the day starts. So you asked me, how would you feel? And my answer to this question is that I'm going to challenge your listeners to give this a try. Because if they do this, get your time outdoors, And like ideally 20 to 30 minutes. Okay. If you get your time outdoors in the morning within an hour of waking up, that very day, I promise you, you will have more energy. You will have more focus. You will have more mental stamina. You will get more done. You probably will notice your mood improves just a little bit. And if you were to stick with this and do it for a couple more days, you definitely will notice your mood improves. And then the really cool part is that 14 hours, whatever time, mark it down. If it's 7:30 in the morning, mark it down. 14 hours from then, you will be ready for sleep time. And so like if it's 7:30 in the morning, you get your morning sunlight, then that means at 9:30, which like I've turned into my dad. I'm like all about the 10 o'clock bedtime. Yeah. To me, it's like a non-negotiable. It's like a glorious thing.
I wish.
Yeah. So anyway, but like 14 hours later, you will get tired. And the reason why is interesting because not only have you taught your body this is when the day starts, and therefore the body also knows that's when the day ends, but the serotonin that your body produces, including in your brain, including in your gut, gets transformed into melatonin. So serotonin, which is our happy hormone, is the precursor to melatonin. And melatonin is our sleepy time hormone, which defines our evening circadian rhythm.
I don't know about you guys, but my skin definitely feels different in the winter from the cooler air, lower humidity, heat on in the house. Even if I'm really consistent with my routine, my skin just has a harder time holding on to moisture. And I notice more fine lines showing up and everything just feels kind of tight and dry. So this is why I love Ritual's Hyacera skin supplement. I have been using it for many, many months now, and I love Ritual because all of their ingredients are rigorously tested, GMO free, they're screened for heavy metals and common allergens. So when they launched Hyacera specifically for skin hydration, I was immediately on board. It is just one daily capsule that supports your skin from the inside out. It has this really soothing vanilla essence, so it doesn't taste weird, and it just fits so easily into my routine. But what really sold me are the results behind it. So in a clinical study, Hyacera led to a 2.9x increase in skin smoothness and 3.6x reduction in crow's feet wrinkles in 90 days compared to placebo. People also reported improvements in skin elasticity, glow, and radiance. And that is exactly what I have noticed as well, and exactly what I want this time of year. It's such an easy way to support hydration and smoothness without having to overhaul your whole routine. So start Hyacera to support your glow without compromising on clean science. My listeners can get 25% off your first month at ritual.com/blonde. That's ritual.com/blonde for 25% off your first month. When it comes to holiday gifting, I'm at the point where I only want to give people things that they will actually use and love, things that are beautiful, timeless, and feel elevated without being ridiculous, which is why I love Quince. So their pieces look and feel like designer quality, but at prices that actually make sense. And Quince really has something for everyone. They have their soft Mongolian cashmere sweaters, which are only $50, by the way, something that should definitely cost upwards of $200, in my opinion. The cashmere feels so incredible. It's soft, structured, and it doesn't pill. It's the kind of quality that I would normally expect from a high-end brand. They also have silk tops and skirts that are perfect for dressing up, denim for everyday wear, and outerwear that's actually warm and chic. Their Italian wool coats are standout pieces. They are beautifully tailored. They are soft to the touch and crafted to last for seasons. And every piece is made with premium materials from ethical, trusted factories, priced far below what other luxury brands charge. And you can see the craftsmanship in every detail, the stitching, the drape, the fit, everything feels elevated and wearable, the type of pieces that you end up reaching for again and again. I have so many cardigans from Quince that people think are designer, but they are not, and they have stood the test of time. So find gifts so good you'll want to keep them with Quince. Go to quince.com/blonde for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. They're now available in Canada as well. So go to quince.com/blonde to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/blonde. If you have been following me for a long time, then you know that years ago I had to break up with regular coffee. I loved the ritual of coffee. I loved the taste, but I started noticing these cortisol spikes. I had that wired but tired feeling, the jitters, the mid-morning crash, and honestly bloating. My stomach just did not love me after that morning coffee. but sometimes I still crave that taste. And that's why I love Everyday Dose. It tastes just like coffee, but it's coffee plus benefits. It combines high quality coffee with collagen protein, nootropics, and functional mushrooms like lion's mane and chaga. And I feel like my gut and my brain both love it. What I love is that it helps me stay focused and productive without the crash. So if you struggle with mood or focus or just feeling scattered in the morning, this honestly feels like such a natural upgrade. For me, it gives this really clean, sustained energy, no jittery cortisol spike, no stomach issues, just smooth alertness. And I love that it's so quick. You don't have to do some elaborate morning drink situation. It takes 30 seconds to make, and I never run out of the ingredients that I need. So it fits my lifestyle and just lets me keep the ritual without the side effects. I love that Everyday Dose includes collagen, so it supports skin, hair, nails, and joints, all those things that you start thinking about as you get busier and want to feel your best every day. So get 61% off your first Coffee Plus starter kit and a free A2 probiotic creamer with over $100 in free gifts by going to everydaydose.com/well or entering well at checkout. That's everydaydose.com/well for 61% off your first order. And Everyday Dose is also available at your local Target. And you said that our gut microbes have a circadian rhythm as well.
Yeah, over half of our microbes are rising. They're rising and they're falling during the course of a 24-hour cycle to meet the moment. And if they know what you're trying to do, then they can help you to do that. So during the daytime, they're very focused on sort of like protein metabolism, which is what our body needs because we're physically active. And at night, our gut microbes become focused on recovery. So, and you see this, not only the microbes, but actually our gut barrier. Our gut barrier has a circadian rhythm as well.
And you said our immune system is nocturnal, right?
Our immune system is nocturnal.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was a fascinating thing that I came across. I never thought of this. I'm sure you've experienced this where like, you wake up with a stuffy nose, right? It's like, why am I stuffy at night? And then as I flip into the daytime, it kind of clears up. Well, the stuffiness is inflammation. And this is why your cough can, like for people who have a cough, the cough gets worse at night too. You're not just making this up. This is real. And so, but like that stuffiness, your immune system is activated at night, you have a nocturnal immune system. And then when it comes to daytime, the morning cortisol, which is ideally optimized through this morning light exposure, is the reason why as you start to wake up and start your day, your nose naturally clears out and you'll feel fine.
Interesting. Yeah, I always, whenever I have a cold, it's like it's the worst at night and first thing in the morning. And then during the day, it's a little bit better. I never thought about the why. That's fascinating. I challenge everybody, I'm going to do this too, for the next, 7 days to go outside and get 20 minutes of sunlight. Or what if somebody sits by a window if it's freezing outside? Is that...
Yeah, so the preferable, no, it's a great honest question because like I grew up in Syracuse, New York, so there's no sunlight up there.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. So what you would want is you would want a light box because the window, unfortunately, and your glasses too, if you wear glasses, they filter out the blue light. So if you get this light box that's got 10,000 lux, then that's what you actually need. And you could do it inside if you need to. And by the way, if you complement a little bit of exercise with this, so like it could just be a walk outside. It could be body weight exercises. Like you could do squats and some push-ups or something like this. I'm sure you love doing push-ups, Ariel.
All the time.
But like, any sort of exercise of any variety, right? I'm not talking about hardcore. I'm not talking about CrossFit. I'm talking about basic, just barely getting your heart rate up. Actually, this helps to increase your cortisol peak by another 25 to 50%. So you get, just to put numbers to this, because we're looking for cortisol in the morning. This is our circadian hormone. And so morning light exposure bumps it by 50%. And light exercise gives you about another 20%. And moderate exercise would get you up to about 35%. And like CrossFit would get you to 50%. So basically like these two things, these are the two most powerful levers that you can pull in your morning routine.
Amazing. And it's so simple.
Pretty simple and highly accessible, right?
Yeah. Did we talk about the Syracuse thing when you were on before? I went to Syracuse for a semester.
You did?
Yeah. One semester.
Okay. Let's talk about that. How'd that go? It sounds like you were out.
Well, because I grew up in New England.
Yeah.
And everybody said, oh, it's so freezing. But I applied senior fall. And I applied early, kind of knowing that I would get in. I didn't feel like doing other applications. And everyone said, it's so cold up there. You don't understand. And I was like, I grew up in New England. It's fine. Got in, went for my first semester. I got there, I guess, mid to end of August. It was hot. Summer, all good. September, all good. October.
Yeah, boom. Here we go.
Here we go.
Yeah.
I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And it's like a big campus. You have to walk. We didn't have our cars. Everyone
campus.
who did have cars, they were frozen in the morning. You couldn't start them. Like, it was a level of cold and dark that I had never experienced in my life.
So then you're like, I'm going to LA.
Yeah, no, I went to Florida and then I did a loop.
There we go.
Not encouraging people to drop out.
Were you in the communication school out of curiosity? Or?
Newhouse? No.
Okay.
No, I was.
They're so good for that.
I remember what I did.
Okay.
Yeah, amazing school for communications.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was lazy when I applied, and when I went there, I was kind of like off on a different trajectory.
Yeah, that's
already.
cool.
But
that's where I grew
beautiful
up.
Place
like,
when it's nice.
You know, the funny thing about it is I think that wherever you grow up, you have the most fond memories of that place, right? So like when I go back, I'm like, what is this place? I don't remember it like this. I remember it as being like this, like sort of magical childhood place, you know? I don't know.
I get that. I feel the same way about where I grew up. What did you cut, or is there something that you cut from the book because you thought it might be too controversial?
That's a great question. I've never had someone ask me this kind of question before. I actually trashed antibiotics so hard. And I think I had to kind of walk it back because the truth is that, you know, these are nuanced topics. And the truth is that antibiotics, I would actually argue, are the greatest health invention ever. We all, you know, basically have years added to our life as a result of the fact that we have antibiotics, but at the same time, they're overused and you cannot take antibiotics without paying a price within your gut. It's just not possible. And so actually, as you start to dig into it, the evidence there is pretty damning. So the point is, take them if you really need them, but don't take them unless it's really necessary. Feel free to ask your doctor, like, what happens if I don't take these antibiotics? I think it's a valid question to ask.
What is the biggest misunderstanding about inflammation that you see the wellness world repeating and that you're tired of correcting?
I mean, I think that like, it's just in fairness, the immune system is ridiculously complicated. And so it's easy to get lost. You could be highly trained in, you know, an immunologist and get lost in it. But at the same time, like the wellness hacks that have been proposed as the solution to inflammation, to me, don't really make sense. So, and that includes some of like the supplement protocols out there. It's not landing with me. We do have evidence-based tools. Why would we not opt for the evidence-based tools? Why are we opting for ideas that you can't even back up with science?
Yeah.
So, and that includes like hardcore, you know, vitamin C type stuff. So
super high dose.
Yeah, it's like super high dose.
Yeah.
That's fine. I don't think that's vitamin C itself. Like, I don't think that doing this short term is going to cause severe harm for most people, but it also is not really it's not really a sensible approach when you start to understand the way that it all works.
Yeah. And since we don't have time to get into it today, you do have in your book kind of a supplement protocol or recommendations once people have the other fundamental things down, and prebiotics, probiotics, postbiotics, magnesium, zinc, vitamin D, omegas, melatonin.
Boom.
Did I get all of them?
There's the protocol. Go ahead and take it. And I think that the key too with this is that I actually think that, so if I can make a compelling circadian argument, which I believe that we have during this conversation today, then if everything matters in terms of timing, why would we not want to time our supplements and be consistent with it? So I feel that there's an opportunity to take a look at like our supplement stacks and break them into morning stack, evening stack, and then get locked in on the timing of that all.
Okay. And then last question, since we were talking about like rage baiting and engagement, what is your most unpopular gut health, inflammation? It could just be health opinion right now? Or stance. It doesn't have to be opinion.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm gonna get pushback on gluten.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Because I tend to be someone who I feel that people sort of have demonized gluten a little too much. For people who have celiac disease, they need to be gluten free. That's and if you have symptoms when you consume gluten, you need to be tested appropriately for celiac disease. But the vast majority of people probably don't need to be gluten free and still could achieve a anti-inflammatory diet. I may get a little bit of pushback for nightshades. My argument on nightshades is that you don't need to automatically eliminate nightshades just because you have an autoimmune health condition. So there's actually not much evidence to back that up. Now, if you are the person, I want you to do what's right for you. So if you 100% are convinced that you have to do that, then you should do it. But let's try to be smart about how we approach these things. So we don't want to do it unnecessarily. Like, again, getting back to this whole restriction thing, trying to avoid unnecessary restriction where possible.
Yeah. Listen to your body, right?
Yeah, I think listen to your body. I actually think that in the way that wellness has evolved, we're depending much more on outside devices to tell us how we're supposed to feel. I'm not against those things. Like, I'm not against, wearable technology, for example. But I also think that they're an accessory to the most important question, which is, how do you feel? Right? And ultimately, for me as a medical doctor, like, if you had an entire laboratory panel, I would review it, but I would never use the laboratory panel above hearing from you how you feel. That, to me, is where we need to start. So I just want to make sure that we collectively, like, for the people who enjoy my books, I want you to know this is the way to approach these issues, is like, start with that. How do you feel? And these other things are just accessories.
And because I'm being your hype girl, you also have in your book how to interpret certain lab results or blood tests, what certain findings could be. So if you're high in X, it could mean Y, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
so very useful tool.
I mean, I do put in there in the P3 protocol. I call it P3 for Plant Power Plus. So in the P3 protocol, I do put in there, like, here's the laboratory panel that you should consider and talk to your doctor about. And that way people know, because I do think, of course, there's a place for laboratory results. And like with supplements, like, we should be guided by tests whenever possible, because the point of supplementation is not just like generic, everyone takes the same thing. The point of supplementation is that you know where you stand. And if you're deficient, then you address that. And you could address it through nutrition if that's appropriate, but you also could address it through supplements when appropriate. Amazing.
Well, so fun as always. Thank you so much for coming. Tell everybody where they can find you.
So you can find me, my home base is my website, which is theguthealthmd.com. So if you go there, I have a free email list that people really love. I have a quiz where you can find out what your gut type is. And then you can learn about all the other things that I'm doing, which includes social media at The Gut Health MD, which includes, I'm actually building a digital clinic. And I also have health coaching. And I have my supplement company, 38 Terra.
With Simon
Hill.
Friend of the pod.
Yep. We're so Simon and I are co-founders of a company which we're very proud of, 38 Terra. And it's discussed in the book, but also there's a bigger discussion I would love to have on that topic with people if they want to learn about that. And also I'm starting a YouTube channel.
Amazing.
So I would love for people to come find me on YouTube at The Gut Health MD.
We'll link everything in show notes. Thanks again. Let's do part 4.
Thanks, Ariel.
Because I never got to ask you about the histamine stuff.
Oh, no.
Next
All right.
time.
Well, so the thing I was going to tell you about the histamine is